I'll see if they can up that a little bit since it's the end of the day and you all have joined me graciously. So, and then feel free to jump in if you have questions as I'm going along here. I don't have a problem with that. And I'll do my best to watch the chat box as well. And then thank you, Daphne, for being my IT backup. All right, here we go. All right, can you all see slides okay? Hoping so. I guess you'll let me know if not. Oh, let's see if this will. Here we go. Okay, and then before we get in here too, if you also open up another browser, and we'll do some things on WooClap there. And so if you go to www.wooclap.com/gettingdone, or you can just go to wooclap.com and then jump into getting it done, and we'll have a couple of things to do from there, and then that's how I'll track participation as well. So we just have a couple things. I was going to have us break out into groups, and I wasn't sure how many we're going to join. So we can just, once we get into that poll, we'll just go from there instead of doing breakout rooms. So getting it done, many of us are teaching and reaching and advising and doing administrative tasks. And so I'm going to find out here in a minute that what kind of educational setting are you all in. So if you can open up that separate browser for WooClap, and then we'll do a little poll here. And I'll share my screen as well. Yeah, so the right people made it in here. I thought, well, we'll have to really gear it if we have some early learning. Even school age, though, I think they probably do it more administration than they actually think. So, all right. Thank you. All right, so a little bit about me and how Moodle and how I use it to work and balance my day-to-day. And at first, when I, joined in on the Moodle train here at the university, I thought, well, I will only have to be using it for classes. And then when I saw how versatile it was and how well my students were using it and interacting with it, then it kind of changed a lot up for me. So I then very quickly became, obviously professor, then administrator, advisor. I generally teach about 4 classes online a semester, then 2 live classes, and we have split campuses, so one in Meridian, Idaho, and then one in Pocatello, Idaho. And so, but then we have an online cohort as well, and with graduate students. So I do undergrad, then teach graduate, and I advise all of our online students, and then some on-campus students. So lots of fish in the sea, I guess you would say, or parts in the tub, so lots going on. And then I do clinical supervise on our clinics on our campus here, and then coordinate off-campus things. So being organized, and especially once COVID hit, then we very quickly had to do telepractice and some simulation. So my task the day-to-day may not match yours exactly, but my hope today is that you'll glean some things that can help you. And nowadays, are we really getting it done like we used to? I owe the ITRC team over here at ISU a whole lot. They've been very, very helpful If you don't have your own ITRC that you can call on, even Moodle, just watching things online or figuring out, have just been very helpful during these times. And so I thought just a little thing here. My house is right now is probably a piece of all of these. My Zoom backgrounds never work, hence you can see I couldn't ever get that to coordinate with my old computers that I have. Tiger King, for some reason, I began watching that. And then my parents are distraught over the whole thing. So I probably can take a piece of every one of these houses right now, which makes being online and teaching and trying to advise students who are, their houses look very different right now as well. Some are, young and very panicked. So they're needing lots of extra help right now. So even if you don't use Moodle the way I do, my hope today is that you'll be able to take some tasks off your list and allow Moodle to work for you. And again, I originally thought Moodle was just going to be for teaching, and it's really done so much more for me. And help you get things done even now that a lot of things are online, and be more flexible, engaged, and then supportive with your students and your colleagues. So let's talk a little bit about what plates you might balance. So we're going to go back over to that WooClap here, and let's see if I can do this right. Let's go back here to what plates are you balancing from day to day? Hoping it started. It should be a word cloud. I hope by me just clicking on it, it does it. Some of these new tools. There we go. Let me share here. Yeah, committees. Who knew we were going to be on so many committees, right? Yeah, multiple families and volunteering and teaching. Yeah, we definitely spin a lot of plates and balance a lot of things as educators, and it's not just the straight down teaching. And yeah, committees is probably a huge one. Nonprofit as well. Yeah, and then regular assistance to us professors. That's a daily task. I think I have my IT kind of speed dial, so thank you for that. All right, we'll jump back over here. All right, so Moodle, and I looked up when I was doing this presentation, I thought, it'd be interesting to see how Moodle was even architected and why it was designed. And I learned that it was designed by an educator and a computer scientist with this social constructivist principle in mind. And so activities are at the heart of Moodle's course management system. And so I very quickly also learned that students need things to become engaged in the university environment or in a high school environment or higher education environment. Even elementary ed, they need lots of interaction. And so very quickly I've been using Moodle to help me in my advising. And so let's do another little poll here about what you use Moodle mostly for. So back over to your WooClap there. Yeah, so mostly for teaching. Some of you are already using for advising and some simulation in there. Oh, interesting. and trainings, and yeah, a little bit for administration. So yeah, good. All right, thank you for sharing that. That helps my understanding too of who's in here. So we're going to tackle a plate at a time today, and first talk about advising. And our attitude, you know, and motivation really is powerful predictors. Students' attitude, their motivation are also powerful predictors of how they will succeed. And most students, as you probably all know, even professors, don't necessarily arrive at higher education knowing how to make all of those academic decisions. And so having to support that many times, and as advisors we can help students adjust to the new learning environment, and you might even be advising a faculty member and adjusting and getting into the new expectations and things that are needed in their various roles in the university or higher education setting is frequently needed. So and then this last thing, when we're advising, that, you know, increasing students' interpretation of their academic decisions. Most of our young people, not sure if they're always just having fun or if they're actually learning. And I frequently say, no, you have to not just memorize the information, you have to learn the information. And so many times we are working our best to keep students stimulated, and the best way to keep them enrolled is keeping them stimulated, keeping them challenged, and then keeping them progressing towards a meaningful goal. And many times when they start with us, they don't yet know what that goal is. So very important as advisors. And so how I've used Moodle to keep me advising and keep my students enrolled, I make things very organized and clear and keep it organized by semester. And I keep the most highly accessed material at the top. And sometimes I'll post videos or apps on how to, you know, access important information, and especially with things like COVID. I even had to start posting things about food pantries and things that might be in their area when students were asking, and so we very quickly had to put together some information for that. Even though you might develop a site for in Moodle, do still consider your ADA accommodations. Sometimes you're the one on that is most involved with students or learners, and sometimes those accommodations, they don't access them or forget about them, or might feel embarrassed to use them. And so do consider those when you are building a site other than an academic teaching site, that you consider those ADA and what those students might need. So I usually organize things by semester, and especially for our graduate program, frequently students may change course sequences, or things are taken out of order, or they have things that, you know, happen. So the base program I put down, and then certain things under that I may have. So their first semester, their fall semester, then what does the rest of their program look like? That has alleviated a lot of questions like, what do we sign up in for the fall? And so I'll say, you know, I call it an e-manual for the advising site. So I'll tell them to refer to their advising site or their e-manual. And so I usually just, you know, put labels in there, and things that change frequently I can easily go in and edit and change. And then it's helpful also, I've put links in there hearing from former students, or using apps like Flipgrid. So using what's in Moodle, assignment links, I have them turn in if they needed background information or fingerprint clearance things. I make an assignment link in Moodle and keep track of my advisees that way. And if I need certain forms filled out, it's not graded, but I definitely can go, they met or didn't meet. And but then hearing from former students is sometimes helpful, and having these videos then tailored to them. So I'm going to put this in present mode, so maybe this will show up here. And so this was a former student, and she came back to talk to students about just their clinical clock hours that they needed. So I'm just going to play a quick snippet, otherwise you'll be probably bored to tears.
But like she said, my name's Caitlin Pfeiffer. I finished everything in May. I'm still slotted to, receive my transcript and what have you in August. My husband and I just moved to Virginia,
so it's helpful. Sometimes I have it always, the ADA, have them do the closed captioning for those students, and then I don't have to go back and think, because usually as the advisor, I don't necessarily know that information. And so if I have things closed captioned, that's helpful. And then also those students just are pretty natural in giving information and making students feel comfortable. Also, it's helpful to have a student who graduated come back and give information that you too can make it through all of this. And you could do the same with faculty members, hey, you too could get through this Quality Matters course or a design course and be able to do things. So I use Flipgrid a lot to use and to share with. So, and probably that didn't share that screen necessarily. Sorry about that. Could you all see that video? Let me see. Okay. Oh, okay. Yep. Okay, good. I did that right. It's hard to know when you don't have eyes to read. Students will kind of give you those eyes. All right, and then right at the top, important information. I usually try to give them right up at the top, have announcements, have where they can ask us, and Moodle you can set where it either alerts your email. I generally, for these advising sites, I have it do that. But class sites, I kind of turn it off, especially when an assignment is due. So knowing how to toggle and make things, available to you so that you're notified. Otherwise, they could go months in that advising side and I wouldn't know it. But I do, just because of my student needs and most recently not having my office phone tied up, I have posted my cell phone on here, and surprisingly, nobody's abused that yet. So that's always helpful. The nice thing too, that not only is Moodle, do I have it set up to meet student needs, things about staying healthy or being mindful. A lot of those apps I have shared back on the Moodle site for Moodle Mountain that you can pull down. I've pulled a lot of things like Zotero if they're doing research projects, how to keep track of all that information, but even all the way things down like why exercise is important, why sleep is important. Some apps I directly include, especially if I hear sprinklings of what students are going through, then I might post it in the announcement, check out this app to track, what you're eating or even drinking water. They sometimes need to be reminded of that. But the nice thing, not only for students is Moodle, do I use it for information so that I'm not repeating myself, or where they can just go and find, how to get, the ISU bookstore to get, masks with the tiger on there now. But also I use it to track them. And I literally had a student that went through 3 years of the program and she had never accessed the advising site. I'm not going to ding you points or anything for that, but I was surprised. And then it explained a lot. I thought, gosh, I should look in the participation log more often to see who's participating and who isn't. But then you can see from your, even if you set something up like this for faculty, a site for them to, get questions answered or things like that, then you can see who's in there and their logs and their participation. And sure enough, this student, I go, well, that explains a lot. 3 years and never got in there to, do what she was supposed to do. She was always getting an email from me. Have you gotten in the e-manual yet? Nope. So some just, even though you build and try to lead, they still don't take you up on it. But what I found that has kept students in my advising site is that it does keep them stimulated. Those videos from former students to be encouragement, them seeing the overall big picture. So having things by semester listed in there, what they need, what things to equip, what things to expect sometimes is needed. They then have immediate access to me, not that I'm looking at, 3 in the morning, but they also have this neutral person to help them assist their goals and achieving their goals. And lots of my online students, I mean, I have 72 of them. They get lost in the shuffle, and then when some don't graduate, my it increases quite significantly. So they check things off, and you can set it to where things are checked, like a task list. And now I even have other faculty saying, hey, can I get in that advising site to see, what's in there, how your supporting students are saying, lots about it. So even though my graduate students, you think they have it all planned out in their mid-20s, they don't. They still need a lot of assistance. And so, and they don't have to continue to ask for information, although most of the time they really don't have problems asking, but then I don't have to continue writing the same thing over and over. And usually my goal is if about 5 people ask for it, then I probably should post it. So again, see that Wakelet back on this Moodle Mountain Moot site there, a whole bunch of resources there from, research to eating right to, there are a couple ISU things in there, but that's more example how you can post things about your school or things like that. So feel free to take that and use it and make it your own. All right, anything about advising? I'm gonna see really quick here how our chat is looking. Of course, this, okay. Has anybody built an advising site before, or uses it in a different way? Okay, well, another way to use Moodle. So some of you are saying, no, never used it, only for teaching. Yeah, it really has saved me a lot of time, especially when you get students who are asking, multiple questions. So if you find yourself in an advising role, very, very helpful to use Moodle in this way. One thing about administration, so here is another hat that, we have here at ISU, we've built a couple of Moodle sites just for our paperwork. Basically goes in there, but it's all in a central location. And so when I'm in Moodle and I look off to the right, I have, multiple courses that I can go into, but I then also have administrative and faculty resources. So at ISU we have I've added multiple things over semesters, and it's helped. And the department chair, now we just use these and any new faculty coming on board. So I just usually at our university, I just request a new course and we rename it. That's how I make my advising sites. And then it's not linked to anything in some of those enrollment, once they enroll in the class, those types of things. It's just a site, and then I add people in there. And even for faculty, if we get new faculty, we add them in there. Then some resources, so things like tenure or things happening at the university will be in our resources. And then administratively, we also post things that, because Moodle is considered FERPA compliant, we post things in there. The challenge is if you have adjunct faculty, you have to check to make sure you can't just drop them in there, because that might mess with your FERPA regulations. So I posted here a couple of documents. So if you go into the Google slide, then you'll have access to these. Anytime you see these Moodle, it's directly from Moodle, but they have ways of doing administratively in Moodle, not necessarily setting up a site, but I'll show you some of those things that we do. But here in our administrative, so this, we just made a Moodle course and put administratively, careful if you are adding adjunct, but if the student needs to petition, then we have by semester. If any decisions need to be made, we post it in here instead of by email. Google isn't considered FERPA compliant, so we've saved our selves there, putting information in Moodle. Another application we use is Box, that our university has, so that's another place where you can keep FERPA compliant information and not have to worry. This is so much better. Somebody said email them, and this is a great way to check in with students, and it's all FERPA compliant. And then you can even set up those forums now in Moodle. You can do a private reply, like if you posted a discussion, you can private reply to your students, and then that maintains things as well. But this is a nice way for our faculty to manage low grades. We put it in here instead of over email, in case email gets hacked, we'd be in big trouble. So that's helped with our accreditation purposes. So this has helped us out a lot. For accreditation also, if we have admissions, when our accrediting body is a national organization that we have to, as I'm a speech language pathologist, and so we have our national thing, and then they are able, we give them access to these sites, and then they're able to access the information that they need in order for accrediting purposes, and that has really saved us too every 5 years. And so I know lots of programs look for ways where it's in a central location, and Moodle has really helped a lot with that. And again, it's in one place, and I can just go between my dashboard and find my class, or find my administrative site, or find my advising site, and it's been really nice. For our faculty resources is kind of another Moodle course we have set up, and I can't obviously take credit for things that are in here. I'm just showing there's just multiple ways that Moodle can be used besides teaching, and it's central since you're already teaching. Then it's in there, or working with faculty or setting things up. But if we have to have HIPAA, we are required to do things for our licensure and things like that, that students have to not only follow FERPA rules, but hit the HIPAA regulations, so healthcare regulations. So, and then our librarian has also posted videos in our faculty resource. So if we get a new faculty member and she needs to quickly post in a class how to access the librarian and your library and all of these we have in our faculty resource page. If student, once they give course evaluations, then we drop them in. And I know in my department, we have sign language interpreting, audiology, and then speech language pathology. So we have sections in this resource that are, sometimes you'll see SLP, sometimes you'll see audiology, but then we've divvied it up. But again, it's in a central location, because never say never. Sometimes we're administratively managing things that need to happen with sign language interpreting when we never thought we would. And then we've even posted things from that the university requires of us, or our division requires of us, so that it's all in one site for faculty, and they don't feel so overwhelmed. Because I don't know about you all, but we get at least 20 emails a day that don't necessarily deal with us, and then some do. So if it's important, then they know and can trust that it's in this site. And again, it's just a one-stop shop, because you're already teaching in there. So, okay, administratively, I hope some of that, even though you can use that and it will help you, because you probably do more administrative things than you even imagined you do, or even can help your faculty in designing that. So, okay, overcoming some online barriers. So if you are, you know, most recently teaching online, we're going to move into that teaching mode, and most likely some of these things you're already doing and trying, but I wanted to show you how I've been keeping students engaged over this time. So let's go back to that Woo clap. I'm gonna, oh, and I guess I was not sharing that screen. Sorry, everybody. Let me get this one open. All right, this one is overcoming online barriers. And so there's a couple of options here. And so this might take a little bit more time, but I thought instead of breaking out into rooms, and I just couldn't quite figure out how much control I'd have over when we first started this venture for Moodle Mountain Moot here. So I was a little bit trigger shy. So this, if you go back to that wooclap.com, getting it done. So how do you keep your students stimulated, or faculty? How do you keep them, you know, challenged, and how do you keep them progressing towards your goals? Yeah, and I see, how do you keep your students stimulated? So frequent communication, and I think, you know, email. I think when I retire, I just won't have one. But right now, it really, I mean, you can go from 1 minute to, I try to keep mine, I was going to try to keep it below 50, and miraculously it's jumped to like 400, and I'm having a hard time getting it below that. I at least vet it and go through and then kind of filter out, but yeah, getting them, building relationships with them, talking about their experiences. I think that is so true right now in this day and time. Really understanding technologically, and if you attended the opening session, the gentlemen in there were talking about, we can't just assume that they really are equipped, faculty or students, that they come to us knowing everything. We can't just assume that based on their age. So frequent communication is so necessary, and talking about their experiences, because the more you talk, the more you start to understand that, gosh, we are, you know, maybe not as equipped as one might have thought. Giving a scenario is a great way to keep them stimulated. Unique assignments that force that higher thought of creativity. I appreciate these. And then how do you keep your students challenged? So, you know, focusing on hands-on and immediate application. I think that's hard to do even as we're teaching others, no matter how that may be. Those hands-on activities are hard now, with very challenging with COVID, but trying to give things that they can relate to and immediately apply, and then keeping rigor high. So then progressing towards their goal, revisiting why these skills are relevant to them in the real world. That's what they want to know. It used to be when, you know, we'd take a math class and I go, when am I ever going to use this? I had a student, you know, just the other day, it was like, why do I need to understand what speech and language is? And first of all, well, it's in your title, or will be. So some of these things that they just really don't see the relevant, you know, nature. Why would I need to memorize that when I need to, you know, look it up. And I always say, and not just memorize, you need to learn it, you need to know it. You wouldn't want to, you know, go to the doctor with a broken ankle and they pull down the thing and go, well, I think that's your ankle. This is stuff you need to know. So yeah, activity completion tracking, that is very useful in Moodle. And again, under advising, but even teaching, if they can see their progress towards a goal, that's very helpful instead of just clicking away. I love that. And then checking in with them a lot. How's it going? What are you thinking about? Those forums in Moodle are very helpful. Just keeping them going. And I think that sometimes the online teaching, it is a little bit lonely for students out there. Even though they say, I love the online aspect, they still want to be checked in with. And the award badges and certificates, I should use those more. That's a nice reminder of that. So, all right, thank you, everybody. And I'll make sure to print out that so we can get some Moot coin there. Okay, I might do this share in case I toggle between websites. Here we go. Okay. Well, I lost all the way where I was. All right, so teaching, promoting learner involvement. You all gave some very great things that you're already doing, and you all seem, you know, pretty aware. And I think the key is frequently communicating, keeping them engaged. And with Moodle's whole constructive perspective, you know, learners need to be actively engaged and making meaning and then teaching with that approach. So students should be building and generating based on what they already know, but some things to remember, that they come to class with this established worldview that's formed by prior experience and learning, and sometimes great and sometimes not. And so for students to change that worldview, it requires some work. And in these next classes coming up, we're going to have some work to do for sure. And students learn from each other as well as from the teacher and the professor. And students, I mean, it could be your faculty, it could also be actual, you know, paying students as well. And then students do, the person that said, you know, hands-on, and hands-on looks very different right now. And how do I do something with anatomy versus how am I gonna get them to transcribe this word or things like that, or watch this client and, you know, take data. Looks very different now than it did, and we have to just roll with it. So, and allowing and creating these opportunities for all of them to have a voice and be able to construct new ideas is important. So obviously Moodle, I continue to always look for ways that students can analyze, investigate, collaborate, share, build, and generate. And I figure if I'm putting all those things in mind and finding ways for them to do those things, then I'm clicking away at it, and one step at a time. Definitely, these are just some ideas of how I use Moodle to allow students to do all these things. Obviously with the analysis piece of it, the choices in Moodle or the glossary, those H5P and quizzes are very helpful as well. With those choice options in Moodle, one question or choice is allowed. The limits can be set on the answers, and you can select whether you publish the results to students or not. There can be a delay in there, and you can really use that for your teaching. I didn't use it as much, and now I really like it. And you know, it might be a question to kickstart something. It might be a question that was left unanswered in a past lesson, or I might need to give feedback about a lesson. And now that I'm in simulation land with a lot of our clients and learning for our students, the choice option has been very helpful. And then you can use it as a poll as well. So the glossary, also they will have that for a while, and especially my undergrad classes where they're just getting that base knowledge. But then as they move on in their graduate career, being able to differentiate, and some of them that move from undergrad to our graduate program, then it's nice they already have these activities, and so these glossaries. So there's lots of terms and things in our degree that we use over and over. So if you find that's happening, and then this person, she did a really creative job creating some glossaries, and so her link is there in my slides for you to have. There's some different ideas she did. The quiz activities and the HP5, it's kind of a pain, those HP5 to initially set up, but once they're set up within, it really helps. And so I'm going to show you here. Let's see if it'll just log me right in. Nope. So I wanted to show, this is kind of a, I don't have any students right in here, but I wanted to show you this kind of course that I developed, and how things are just kind of laid out, but then how the use of lessons and obviously exams, but then I put the H5P, the quizzes in there, so that during lecture they would have to go back and review. And then as they do it, they get a checklist, but the quiz is right in the lecture material, so then I know if they've accessed it or not, and then they're not so surprised by my exam questions. So that's, you know, one way I've done it, and my lectures right in there, and then I am able to tie back to my module objectives and then course objectives, which helps with that online learning, so they know exactly why they're doing what they're doing. There are lots of apps that I like to use as well. One of the apps is Padlet, and in this class, what I've been able to do is one of their very first assignments, they go in and peer review each other, just defining basic terms, and I use a Padlet where they have to go in and post a video about them defining a definition there, and so and then they have to analyze each other.
Hi, my name is Bettina,
in
and I'm going
doing
to
it.
be talking
So
to you about the 3 domains of language.
So that's been a nice way to go in, and then I can go back and listen to, and it's all in one place, and their videos are in one place. So this is called Padlet, and so even if the app isn't directly in Moodle, you can easily tie other applications in there, and so that's been very helpful, and Moodle's easy to just drag and drop that in there. And simulation, I was just going to talk a little bit about that, where I have seen people even take those avatars and set up certain, you know, environments. I've never had the time to do that. I think one day it would be really cool to have, you know, one of those Sims or whatever they are in there. But we immediately went from doing in our department, working with students and working with clients face to face. We immediately, and this where we were doing simulation types of things, to now we have a company that thankfully designed our simulation cases. But because of that, then I had immediately could take Moodle overnight and put everything that they're required to do for these simulation types of things from this company. So all of the forms that they'd have to fill out, their student agreement to be on this site. There were tips and things that I could immediately download and put into Moodle, and we had to do this overnight. So just some things that might be helpful. We also had to, we have an adult experience that we had to immediately plug into simulation overnight, where we've had to track their cases. And again, those check marks in Moodle are very helpful. Grading, I can keep track of very quickly in their clock hours. And then we also now have to debrief online with them. So Zoom being in Moodle for us, we can just click and away we go and be meeting with students. So supervision can look very different for your, what you might need, but having everything going immediately from this to being able to do telepractice and simulation and everything we need for our students, having it all in one place has been extremely, extremely helpful for us. And I'm able then to share things with students, and I don't have to send it out through email and I left somebody off. I know that they're all in that site. So I just built a separate course. And I just asked my IT people, and they'd give me a separate course to put it in, where they're, later we can go back and try grades too, and if we needed to. But really Moodle works for me 34/10, so 34 hours a day, 10 days a week. Students are in there over the weekend, and I don't have to be answering questions, and this has decreased my email. I mean, I was getting hundreds of emails a day, and from faculty, from students, and so making Moodle work for me more than just for teaching has really, really been helpful. So thank you for attending today's session. I know it's at the end of the day, and I promise I'll get in and fill out the sheet so you all get some nice Moot coin. But do you have any questions for me?
Amy, we have a question in the chat from
Okay.
Katie.
Good, thank you. Push Google Classrooms when we shut down. We already use Moodle for some classes, and it seems a better choice. Do you think it's a better choice and you user-friendly? I do, and I will say Moodle, you can download and back up your courses, where Google Classroom, if something glitches with Google, which they say it's going to be around forever, and Google is this sort of, but I'm a little bit old school in that I know Moodle. I have my file back up and saved somewhere, and Moodle's been around for quite some time. So I believe it's worth the investment, and our university, I mean, that's all I've known, but I have taken a couple mindfulness classes and things that people offer through the Google Classroom. But I think your district would like Moodle, and it's there. I don't have to worry about it, disappearing, because I can back it up. The other thing that is a little bit more challenging with Google Classroom is with Moodle, you can take portions of, if you have a test from one semester to the next, and easily select and move it over. I think there are just test questions and things, and it automatically grades for you, whereas Google Classroom doesn't do that. You have to go in and grade and keep your grade book going and all that. Moodle has that available, and I can actually show you in this development course, just so you can see. Let me share right quick, because there aren't any people graded in here, but it goes, I can have every assignment in here graded, and things that are like essay questions, I can go in and manually grade them, but it goes by the question, and all students are loaded in there. So I can quickly just grade the questions, and then it regrades it for me. And once your grade book is set up, away you go. So I highly recommend it. There we go. So I highly recommend it. Just automatically grades, and my grade book's done for the semester, where Google Classroom, I don't have that availability. And as far as user-friendly for students, I think because it's all, you know, laid out nicely. Google Classrooms, you know, I think it depends on the developer. Moodle sort of forces. Also because if you have any students that have ADA accommodations, Google Classroom for reading certain things, for closed caption, there's only so many things you can load in there. So I know any students that have accommodations, I think most school districts jump to either Microsoft Office or the Microsoft, I can't think of what it's called right now, or the Google Classroom, but I think if you have students with special needs, we can easily accommodate within Moodle already the way the fonts and the things are in there that someone with a visual impairment could easily get in and take part in class, and we're not going to have to worry about our special needs accommodations or our ADA accommodations. So that's been another thing too. So, okay, any other questions? Thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate your time, and I'll make sure you get your Moodle coin. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the conference.